There's a shout out to the SLP family and stuff like that in there. So please do get along and buy the new issue of 4020 magazine. And whilst we're talking about Steve Mascord, who kindly chose us to be interviewed this month, ahead of our 200th episode coming up next month, really. But whilst we're talking about Steve's got a company called Mascord Browns that most people who listen to this podcast will probably have got some sort of awareness of, if for no other reason than the Catalan for a Day t-shirts that they're trying to flog ahead of the Challenge Cup final. But Mascord Browns opened up an affiliate scheme for podcasts and that sort of stuff, and I've subscribed onto that. So if you are looking to get some international rugby league gear from Mascord Browns, and you've seen the stuff and you like the look of it, and you want to buy it online, then look out for the links that I'll be putting up, because there'll be links that you can give something back to Super League Pod, as well as supporting the International Rugby League game and buying stuff from Mascord Browns and supporting those guys if you bought it through my links. So look out for those. I'll put a link into the blog, the episode blog, that I'll put up with all the details of the show, as well as any links you see on Super League Pod's Facebook page or Super League Pod's Twitter feed. There'll be Mascord Brown links that come under my affiliates credentials, so please do that, because it helps me get a little bit more money towards running the show. And I know loads of people have made donations, and you're one of those people, Langers, who've made donations. I'm really grateful for those. If there's people who feel like they kind of want to support the show but they don't want to just make a donation, or they're not interested in getting some SLP t-shirts and stuff like that, this is another way you can do it. So please do. That's everything for the feedback and shout-out section now, Rich. So we're going to move on to news from around the world of rugby league. News now, sponsored by RunDom.Run. Every year, Dom does stupid runs in stupid costumes to raise money for Martin House charity, and this year is like no other, because Little Warden is going to match any donation the SLP listeners make to RunDom.Run. You just have to leave hashtag SLP family in the donation comment, and that'll get doubled up. I believe that if we manage to get £3,000 worth of sponsorship through this year for Dom, he will wear Castleford Tigers oddballs boxer shorts to every Leeds Rhinos home game next season. So there you go. There's the extra incentive to donate there. All the details for that and for Little Warden, our other sponsors of the news section, is going to be available on the blog, superleaguepod.com. After you've listened to the episode, head over there, leave your donations, and look at all the details and that sort of stuff. Okay. The first piece of news is going to be buried by the second piece of news, because that's how the club wanted it to be done. England international John Bateman will leave Wigan Warriors to join National Rugby League side Canberra Raiders on a 2-year deal from the 2019 season. The 24-year-old will return to the Warriors once his deal expires in the NRL. Bateman joins prop Ryan Sutton and fellow England players Josh Hodgson and Elliot Whitehead at the Raiders. In a statement, the Warriors confirmed Bateman, who also has a further option on his an option year on his deal with the Raiders. At the conclusion of that deal in the Australian capital, the back row will return to the Super League with Wigan on a 3-year contract, which will be on what currently exists as marquee level terms. So the one of the worst kept secrets. Every news story in rugby league is a worst kept secret, but John Bateman will be leaving the Wigan Warriors. Do you have any take on this, Langers?
No, I mean, he's obviously been one of the best, if not the best, Warriors player in the last couple of years, and easily one of the top players in Super League. So I think for him to go to the NRL is totally expected, and you would never want to kind of knock a player for taking that chance. I mean, the only thing that seems a bit odd to me is he's agreed to come back on a 3-year contract to Wigan. I mean, I kind of would have expected him to maybe have a gentleman's agreement that says you boys will have first shout when I come back. But I mean, in 3 years, assuming he stays for 3 years in Canberra, what are the terms of his contract with Wigan? I mean, he could be worth twice as much potentially.
It's very bizarre. I assume it's put in there. Wigan basically had a release fee built into John Bateman's contract, which I believe was around about £120,000. I strongly suspect Canberra have not paid that full fee. They've paid our fee. I strongly suspect they've not paid the full fee that was built into the contract for him to leave this contract a year early at Wigan, this current contract. I think that this extra clause is a concession on that, which basically means if he stays at Canberra after the end of that contract, they'll have to pay him another fee. I think that's why it's been written in. To me, these things are rarely truly enforceable at the end of the day. I mean, just look at, I suppose Yestin Harris is an example of one where I was going to cite other examples, but Yestin Harris just came to mind. That's one where the club did enforce it and actually end up getting a fee because he'd broken that agreement when he came back from rugby union, went to play for Bradford. Bradford had to make a large sort of settlement in the end on that. So maybe it's protection in that sort of scenario. But yeah, John Bateman's been fantastic for Wigan. I don't begrudge him going and trying to better himself and also better his bank balance and test himself at the top level. So good luck to him as far as I'm concerned. I would love to see him back at Wigan sooner rather than later before he's completely broken. But we'll see what comes on that. But like I say, Wigan buried that story with another story, Langers. What was that?
So this one with the Wigan Warriors legend Shaun Edwards will return to the Super League Cup as head coach in 2020 after Adrian Lamb takes the job for a season. Adrian the caretaker. Edwards will take charge of the club where he spent 14 years and won every available honour after fulfilling his commitments as Wales's defence coach at the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Again, good business for Wigan. I mean, that's only positive. I mean, I can't imagine that all his years in rugby union have really dulled his league skills. Might take him a while to kind of get back up to speed and with the modern game, but coaches I think are relatively interchangeable between the two codes. So be good to see him back, really. Even though I was never a fan of his as younger, especially after the '86 Challenge Cup final. But was 85?
Yeah,
85. Yeah. Oh, getting my days wrong. The odd thing for me for this one is Adrian Lamb taking the job for a season. I mean, what happens if you win the treble next year?
Yeah, well, we did. I did put out a Super League pod short about this that kind of covered my larger feelings on this. I'd recorded a show for Wigan Fan TV with Sean and David over there, and we've sort of agreed that I could chop that up and put it out as an SLP short as well. But yeah, if he won the treble, all it does is further enhances his reputation for a head coaching job in the NRL. Surely that would be his ultimate goal. And let's face it, he wouldn't be coming to Wigan to be a coach for 5 years or something and plan to stay indefinitely. If he kept doing really, really well, his plan would be to go back and be a head coach in the NRL. So this is just a great resume builder for Adrian Lamb. We needed to fill the gap. The alternative, the plan B, was John Winder being the head coach next year on an interim basis, and I don't think that would have really helped with the fans' level of confidence with what's going on, particularly as we don't know what players we're going to have next year. So I think Adrian Lamb and then Shaun Edwards shows a clear succession plan. I think for Adrian Lamb, it's a real good chance for him to get his CV built up. It's a best case scenario. It's a worst case scenario. He's basically only got a year in it anyway, so he's not really going to cause himself too many problems if it doesn't go well. I'd love to have that problem, Langers, if he won the treble and decide what we're going to do. I'd love to have a treble winning coach as our assistant coach the next year. That would be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I don't see that coming through anyway. And look how hard it is to win the treble. Leeds obviously did it, but with a couple of lucky interjections along the way. Ryan Hall scoring that last second try at Huddersfield when it should have been cleared into touch, and then they wouldn't have won the treble that year. So it's very, very hard to do. So I can't see that Wigan will be doing it next year with all the will in the world, even though I'll predict it, I'm sure, come February. The thing that gets me is this whole conversation about it being just to sell season tickets, comparing it to the likes of Sinfield coming back at Leeds. It's not the same sort of thing. Yes, it's going to help sell season tickets, and Wigan need to do something about that because attendances are falling down. But it's not just appointing someone who's a club legend for the sake of appointing someone who's a club legend. It's appointing someone who also has got a really strong track record in coaching. And if we've had to wait for him a year, we've had to wait for him a year. I think personally we were trying to sign him for 2020 anyway. Sean Wayne got wind of it and said, well, I'm going on my own terms rather than you replacing me. And that's why he's going this year rather than the end of next year, which I think is what the club would have wanted to happen. So I think Edwards has done great stuff in rugby union as a coach there, either as the head coach of Wasps or as the assistant coach at Wasps and at Wales. So I can't imagine that he wouldn't be successful as long as Wigan can recruit a competitive level of player, which is the next thing Wigan need to do based on everyone that's been allowed to go or that's chosen to go. So yeah, I'm quite excited as a Wigan fan that we've got people with great credentials in, let alone the fact that Adrian Lamb was one of the first real heroes I had so he's certainly the first overseas hero I had as a Wigan fan from my time watching the club. So yeah, good news.
Yeah, I think the one thing. Sorry, Jake, last one thing on there is the one comment that I saw Sean Edwards come out with, which I kind of thought, really, Sean, was when he said there was some top rugby union players that he'd spoken to who were looking to come over to rugby league.
That was a bit of a tantalising tease.
Yeah, I mean, a top player from rugby union's gonna drop his kind of £500,000 a year contract and
come over here. Yeah, I've seen him elsewhere sort of refer to maybe players who aren't quite at that top table, who aren't quite internationals and that sort of stuff, who have expressed an interest. And maybe that's a bit more realistic. But you never know. There could be one or two real top now. I mean, George Ford was not so long since removed from being the guest on Whippets and Flat Caps, and he said he would love a return to rugby league at some point in his career. So there's definitely people with an appetite, and if we can do things like appoint big name people, big names within our sport, but also within the wider sporting mindset of the sporting world, really. Sean Edwards is a legend across the field. Everyone knows who he is, really. Who's been around long enough. But lots of people know who he is. So it's a big name for us. If we can grow, and if Elston can be successful with what he wants to deliver, there's no reason why we can't, compete financially if we get things right, if we get more big brands in, if we get more big money backers in. But at the moment it doesn't feel like that's going to happen, so it seems like a bit pie in the sky, like you say, that we're going to get top names from Union over.
I think you're right. It's very positive for Wigan and Rugby League, really, in terms of, like you say, getting a name back. So yeah, let's see how he does.
Moving to the other side of Billinge Hill now, and St Helens loose forward John Wilkin will leave at the end of the season after 16 years at the Super League club. The 34-year-old arrived from Hull KR in 2002 and made almost 400 appearances for Saints. Wilkin won the Super League Grand Final in 2006 and 2014. He won 4 Challenge Cups and the 2007 World Club Challenge. So, well-decorated player, one of the real dressing room leaders at that St Helens club. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago I called this. The writing was definitely on the wall, but he's it's probably the right time for him to go from that top level. I think you don't want to play on a year too long. I think we've seen a few other people recently do that. It's probably made the right call. What are your memories of John Wilkin as a St Helens player?
Well, he's one of those players that's kind of been around. I think when you're opening gambit about a big name retirement, I did for a split second think you were talking about Wilkin. In the news stories, but he's been there and done that. I thought it was quite clever of him to kind of make the announcement on the second best Rugby League podcast, just to kind of to slip it in. What surprised me, I think he only ever made the dream team once. And I had memories of him kind of having a few been in there a few times, but I think there was that time in kind of the mid early 2000s, just after he'd move over when Saints were ridiculously successful.
Yeah, that
was great.
2005 to 2007 Saints side was pretty